I came home from school on a Tuesday, backpack heavy with textbooks, expecting the usual silence. Instead, I found my mom, Debra, standing in my bedroom doorway with 3 black trash bags at her feet. My clothes were stuffed inside them, sleeves hanging out, everything I owned crammed in like garbage. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice shaking. She didn't look at me when she answered. "You're not mine anymore, Monica. You're out." The words hit me like a punch. I dropped my backpack. "What do you mean?" "Mom, what are you talking about?" She finally met my eyes, and there was nothing there. No love. No regret. Just cold emptiness. "You've always been a mistake," she said flatly. "I'm done pretending." She handed me the bags and walked past me toward the kitchen. I stood there, frozen, unable to process what was happening. I was 17 years old. I had nowhere to go. As I dragged the bags toward the front door, I heard her talking to our neighbor through the window. "She's adopted anyway," Debra said casually. "Never really mine." I spent the first night in my car, an old sedan I'd bought with money from my part-time grocery store job. I parked behind a gas station where the lights stayed on all night. I tried calling my aunt, my mom's sister, but she didn't answer. I texted my cousin. No reply. The next day, I drove to my uncle's house and knocked on the door. He opened it halfway, blocking the entrance. "Your mom called," he said, not meeting my eyes. "She told us she'd been having problems. Mental stuff. We can't get involved." I stared at him, stunned. "That's not true." "She kicked me out." "I didn't do anything wrong." He shook his head. "I'm sorry, Monica. We have to stay out of it." The door closed. I tried my best friend next, the girl I'd known since 5th grade. She didn't answer my calls. When I checked social media, I realized she'd blocked me. Everyone had. My mom had told them I was crazy, and they'd believed her. That night, I cried in my car until my chest hurt. Then a tap on my window made me jump. A woman stood outside, older, maybe in her 60s, with kind eyes and a concerned expression. I cracked the window. "You okay, honey?" she asked gently. I nodded, wiping my face. "I'm fine." She didn't look convinced. "I'm Bev. I own the diner across the street. You've been parked here 2 nights now." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded again. She sighed. "Look, I need someone to clean tables and wash dishes. Graveyard shift. It's not much, but it's cash, and you can sleep in the storage room until you figure things out." I stared at her, not sure if this was real. "Why would you help me?" She shrugged. "Because somebody helped me once." "Come on. Let's get you inside." That's how I ended up working at Bev's Diner, scrubbing floors at 3 in the morning and sleeping on a cot surrounded by boxes of napkins and ketchup bottles. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. And Bev never asked questions. One night, a month later, I was wiping down tables when the door opened. My mom walked in. Our eyes met for 1 second. Then she turned and walked out like I was invisible. There was a truck driver who came in every night around 2 a.m. His name was Carl, and he always ordered coffee and pie. He was quiet, polite, and he tipped well. One night, he watched me restock the napkin dispensers with the kind of focus most people didn't notice. "You're good at this," he said. I shrugged. "It's just napkins." He smiled. "No, I mean you're efficient. You see problems and fix them without being told. That's rare." A week later, Carl handed me a business card. "My brother runs a shipping company. They need someone for data entry. It's temp work, but it's better than this." I took the card, not sure if I should trust it. But the next day, I called. They hired me on the spot. The job was boring, endless spreadsheets, tracking shipments, filing invoices, but I was good at it. At night, I watched free YouTube videos on logistics and supply chain management. 3 months in, the computer system crashed during a busy shipping day. Everyone panicked. I quietly fixed it in 20 minutes. When my boss asked how I did it, I just said, I figured it out. Nobody knew I'd spent weeks learning the system in my spare time. One day, Bev pulled me aside at the diner. I heard something, she said carefully. Your mom's been telling people you're in rehab. My stomach twisted. What? Bev nodded. She's remarried now. To some realtor named Rick. Big house, fancy car. She's playing the perfect wife. I clenched my fists. Part of me wanted to march to her house and expose every lie. But another part of me knew that confronting her wouldn't change anything. She'd just twist it, make me look crazy, and I'd lose what little stability I'd built. So I made a different choice. I legally changed my last name. Monica Harper became Monica Clark. I started fresh, erasing every trace of the girl Debra had thrown away. 2 months later, my temp job offered me a full-time position with benefits. I signed the paperwork with my new name, and for the first time in a year, I felt like I was moving forward. I wasn't her mistake anymore. I was my own person. And that was more powerful than any confrontation could ever be. The years blurred together. I worked, I learned, I saved. No parties, no vacations, no distractions. My manager, Marlene, a sharp woman in her 50s, took me under her wing. She taught me how to negotiate with vendors, how to lead teams, how to think strategically instead of just reacting. You're wasted in data entry, she told me one day. You should apply for the supervisor role. I hesitated. I don't have a college degree. She waved that off. You have something better. You have grit. I applied, competing against 3 people with bachelor's degrees. During the interview, they asked how I'd handle a supply chain disruption. I walked them through a step-by-step plan I'd been mentally designing for months. A week later, I got the job. I was 23 years old, and I had my own office. The nameplate on the door read Monica Clark, Operations Supervisor. I took a photo and sent it to Bev with a thank you note and a gift card. She texted back, proud of you, kid. That night, I attended a community event for work. Across the room, I saw my mom. She was laughing, her arm around a teenage girl. I heard her say, "This is my daughter, Claire. My only child." I turned and walked out before she saw me. I couldn't let it go. I needed to know the truth. I requested my birth records from the hospital where I was born. The clerk looked confused. You're not listed under Debra Harper's name, she said. My heart sank. Maybe she'd been telling the truth. Maybe I was adopted. But then why would she lie about it my whole life? I dug deeper, searching online, calling old neighbors, piecing together fragments. Nothing made sense. One weekend, I was helping Bev clean out her basement when I found an old cardboard box labeled Monica, important. Inside was an envelope, yellowed with age. My hand shook as I opened it. It was my birth certificate. And Debra's name was right there, listed as my mother. She'd lied. To everyone. To me. She'd told the world I wasn't hers so she could justify abandoning me. I sat on the basement floor, staring at the paper, feeling a strange mix of vindication and rage. I kept the certificate. I didn't tell anyone. Because someday, this truth was going to matter. I just didn't know when yet. Years passed. I was 28 now, a project manager at a regional logistics company. I had a small apartment, a reliable car, and a life I'd built from nothing. I didn't think about Debra much anymore. Until one Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. Is this Monica Clark? A man's voice asked. Yes. He cleared his throat. This is Rick Sullivan. I'm Debra's husband. She's in the hospital. Kidney failure. She needs a transplant, and you're the only match. My breath caught. I hadn't heard her name spoken aloud in years. How did you get my number? I asked carefully. The hospital found you through the medical donor registry. You signed up years ago. I remembered now. My company had run a donor awareness program, and I'd added my name without thinking. Why are you calling? I asked. Why isn't she? Rick's voice cracked. She refused to call herself. But Monica, she's dying. Please. I closed my eyes. I'll think about it. I hung up before he could say anything else. My hands were shaking. After everything she'd done, after all the years of silence and lies, she needed me now. And she still couldn't bring herself to ask. I couldn't decide. Part of me wanted to help because it was the right thing to do. Another part of me wanted to let her face the consequences of her choices. I called Marlene, my old manager who'd become a close friend. I don't know what to do, I admitted. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, go see her. Not to decide. Just to see. So I did. I drove to the hospital, wearing sunglasses and a hat, trying to stay unnoticed. I found Debra's room and stood outside, listening. A doctor was talking to her. We found a match, he said. Debra's voice was weak but sharp. Who? The doctor hesitated. A woman named Monica Clark. Says she might be a relative. Debra's response was immediate. I don't have a daughter. Just the one at home. This must be a mistake. My chest tightened. Even now, she denied me. I turned and walked out, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall. The hospital called me again 2 days later. Debra was critical now. They were begging me to come in for testing. I finally agreed. Not because I'd forgiven her. But because I needed to understand something first. I told Marlene everything. She listened without interrupting, and when I was done, she leaned back in her chair. You have all the power now, she said quietly. Whatever you choose, it's your choice. Not hers. I went through the first round of testing. Blood work, scans, interviews. I was a perfect match. The transplant coordinator was thrilled, but I didn't commit to anything. I need time, I said. They didn't push. Meanwhile, I kept digging into the past, trying to understand why Debra had done what she'd done. Bev called me one afternoon. I found something, she said. Debra's old journal. She left it at the diner years ago, and I stuck it in a box. I think you should read it. I drove to Bev's house that night. She handed me a faded notebook with a floral cover. Inside, the handwriting was messy, rushed. Most of it was mundane, grocery lists, appointment reminders. But then I found a letter, folded and tucked between pages. It was dated the year I was born. The first line stopped my heart, I resent her for ruining my freedom. The letter was raw, bitter, and heartbreaking. Debra had had me when she was 18, still in high school. She'd written about how her friends went to college while she stayed home with a screaming baby. How she'd felt trapped, angry, robbed of her youth. I look at her and see everything I lost, one line read. She's a burden I never wanted. I read it twice, then a third time, tears streaming down my face. I wasn't crying because it was shocking. I was crying because it confirmed what I'd always suspected. She'd never loved me. I was never her daughter in any real sense. I was just an obligation she'd finally escaped. Bev found me on her couch an hour later, the journal still in my hands. She didn't say anything. She just sat beside me and held me while I cried for the first time in years. When I finally stopped, I felt hollow but clear. I knew what I had to do. I was going to make her face the truth. Not with anger. With evidence. And consequences. I met with a therapist the following week. I needed to process everything before I made a final decision. She listened as I explained the situation, and when I was done, she said something that changed everything. You're allowed to protect yourself, even if it feels cruel to others. Compassion doesn't require self-destruction. Rick called me again, desperate now. She's running out of time, he said. Please, Monica. I'll pay you. Whatever you need. I cut him off. This isn't about money. He went quiet. Then what is it about? I took a breath. It's about the truth. I agreed to move forward with more testing, but I didn't commit to the surgery. I was buying time, waiting for something I couldn't quite name. Then it happened. Debra tried to have the hospital block me from visiting her room. She told them I was mentally unstable, that I was harassing her. The nurse called me to warn me. I'm sorry, she said. But we have to follow the patient's wishes. I thanked her and hung up. Debra was still trying to erase me. Even while dying, she couldn't admit I existed. That's when I knew. I was done protecting her secrets. A nurse I'd gone to high school with recognized me during one of my hospital visits. Her name was Jenna, and we'd been friendly back then. Monica Harper, she said, surprised. It's Monica Clark now, I corrected gently. She nodded slowly, putting the pieces together. You're the kidney match, aren't you? For Debra Sullivan? I didn't answer, but my silence said enough. The story leaked within days. Someone at the hospital told someone else, and suddenly the whole town was buzzing. Debra's long-lost daughter is her only kidney match. She told everyone the girl wasn't hers, but now she needs her to survive. The whispers spread through church groups, book clubs, grocery store lines. Debra's perfect image started to crack. People she'd called friends started asking questions. Why did she lie? Where had her daughter been all these years? Debra's church reached out to me with an unexpected request. They were hosting a charity dinner to raise awareness for organ donation, and they wanted me to speak. I agreed. But I had conditions. I stood at the podium in front of 200 people, my hand steady on the microphone. I didn't mention names. I didn't point fingers. I just told my story. When I was 17, I was thrown out of my home, I began. The person who was supposed to protect me told the world I wasn't hers. She told people I was adopted, that I had problems, that I didn't exist. I lived in my car. I worked graveyard shifts at a diner. I built a life from nothing because I had no other choice. The room was silent. I saw people wiping their eyes. Years later, that same person needs something from me. Something only I can give. And I have to decide, do I help the person who tried to erase me? Or do I protect the girl who survived despite her? I paused, letting the weight of the question settle. I don't have the answer yet. But I know this, forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing who you want to be when the person who hurt you finally needs you. The applause was thunderous. The story went viral online within hours. Debra's name wasn't mentioned, but everyone in town knew. And now, the whole world was watching. 2 days after the speech, I was offered a position on my company's ethics board. Your leadership in navigating difficult moral situations is exactly what we need, my CEO told me. I accepted, humbled and proud. Meanwhile, Debra's world continued to collapse. Her social circle distanced themselves. Donations to the charities she was involved with dried up. She was no longer the respected community figure she'd worked so hard to become. Rick called me, his voice desperate. She's humiliated, Monica. She won't leave the house. Please, just tell people it's not her. I kept my voice calm. I never said it was. He was silent, realizing the trap. If he defended her by denying it, he confirmed it. If he stayed quiet, the rumors grew. There was no winning move. The hospital contacted me again. They needed my final decision. I told them I'd do one more round of testing, but only if Debra agreed to meet me in person. Alone. They relayed the message. Debra's response came back through Rick, only if Monica signs an NDA. I almost laughed. Even now, she was trying to control the narrative. But I agreed. Because I had one last card to play. We met in a private consultation room at the hospital. Debra sat across from me, looking smaller and frilier than I remembered. Her skin was pale, her eyes hollow. But her expression was still cold. "Let's get this over with," she said. I slid a folder across the table. "Before we talk, I want you to see something." She opened it. Inside was my birth certificate, the one with her name clearly listed as my mother. Her face went white. "Where did you get this?" I leaned back in my chair. "You told everyone I wasn't yours. You lied to the town, to our family, to me. But this proves you're my mother. You gave birth to me. You raised me for 17 years. And then you threw me away and pretended I never existed." Her hands shook as she stared at the document. "I had my reasons," she said weakly. "What reasons?" I asked, my voice rising. "That I ruined your life? That I was a mistake? I read your journal, Debra. I know exactly how you felt about me." She looked up, shocked. "You had no right." "I had every right," I interrupted. "You don't get to rewrite history just because it's convenient." I stood. "I came here to tell you something. I survived everything you did to me. I became someone despite you. And now, the whole world knows who you really are." I walked toward the door, then paused. "I'll let the hospital know my decision soon." I left her sitting there, alone with the truth she'd tried so hard to bury. I drove home and sat in my apartment, staring at the city lights. My phone rang. It wasn't Rick this time. It was a girl's voice, young and uncertain. "Is this Monica Clark?" she asked. "Yes." "Who is this?" She took a breath. "My name is Claire. I'm Debra's stepdaughter." My heart skipped. "How did you get my number?" "I found it in Rick's phone. I needed to talk to you." She sounded close to tears. I always felt like something was off. Like she was pretending with me. Then I heard about you, and it all made sense. She treats me like a pet, not a daughter. I closed my eyes. Debra had replaced me with another girl and done the same thing, used her as a prop for her perfect image. "I'm sorry," I said softly. Claire's voice hardened. "Don't be. I want to help you. I want people to know the truth." We talked for over an hour. By the end, we had a plan. Claire agreed to quietly gather documentation, photos, emails, anything that showed Debra's pattern of behavior. "I'm not doing this for revenge," I told her. "I'm doing this so she can't hurt anyone else." Claire understood. Me too. A week later, my lawyer called. "Monica, I found something you need to see." I met her at her office. She slid a stack of papers across her desk. "Your maternal grandfather passed away 6 years ago. He left a trust for any legitimate biological descendant." I stared at the papers. "I didn't know him." She nodded. "Debra kept you away from him. But here's the important part, she told the trustees you weren't her biological child. She blocked you from inheriting." My blood ran cold. "She what?" My lawyer tapped the document. "You have legal standing to contest this. With your birth certificate and DNA evidence, you can prove you're entitled to the trust." I sat back, stunned. Debra hadn't just abandoned me emotionally. She'd stolen my inheritance. How much are we talking about? I asked. The lawyer looked me in the eye. $240,000. I took a breath. Filed a claim. She smiled. Already drafted. I just needed your approval. Within days, the legal paperwork was submitted. Debra didn't know yet. But she would soon. And when she did, everything she'd built on lies would crumble. The trust administrator contacted Debra 2 weeks later. She was informed that a legitimate heir had come forward with DNA proof, and her access to the account was being frozen pending review. Rick called me, furious. You're suing her? While she's dying? I kept my voice steady. I'm claiming what's legally mine. She lied to steal my inheritance. That's fraud. He sputtered, but he had no argument. The law was on my side. Meanwhile, Debra's reputation continued to collapse. Community members who'd once admired her now avoided her. The charity boards she'd sat on quietly removed her name. Donations she'd pledged were suddenly under review. Her perfect image was cracking, piece by piece. Then Claire called me. She kicked me out, she said, her voice shaking. She found out I talked to you. She said I betrayed her. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar ache. Where are you now? With my dad. I'm okay. But Monica, she's alone now. Rick left her too. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. Debra had destroyed everyone who'd gotten close to her. And now she was facing the consequences, alone in a hospital bed, waiting for a kidney she might never get. The hospital called again. Debra's condition was critical. Without a transplant in the next 2 weeks, she'd die. They begged me to make a decision. I visited her one last time. She was barely conscious, hooked up to machines, her skin gray. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. Please, she whispered. I'll die. I sat beside her bed, my voice calm. You let me die when I was 17. You threw me out, told everyone I wasn't yours, and watched me disappear. I survived because I had to, not because you cared. She closed her eyes. I was wrong. I'm sorry. The words sounded hollow. Are you sorry you did it? I asked. Or sorry you need me now? She didn't answer. I stood. I'm going to donate. Not because you deserve it. But because I'm not like you. I won't let someone die just because they hurt me. I left an envelope on her bedside table. Read this when you're stronger. Inside was a letter. But I didn't tell her what it said. I walked out of the hospital and didn't look back. My choice was made. But it was on my terms. Always on my terms. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. I signed the consent forms, underwent the final tests, and prepared myself mentally. But I made one request to the hospital. I wanted the donation to be anonymous. She'll know it's you, the coordinator said. I shook my head. She'll suspect. But she won't know for sure. Let her wonder if it's me or a stranger. Let her live with that uncertainty. They agreed. The surgery went smoothly. I woke up in recovery, groggy and sore, but alive. A nurse told me Debra's transplant had been successful. She'd recover. I felt nothing. No relief, no regret. Just a quiet sense of closure. 2 days later, I was discharged. Marlene picked me up, helped me to her car. You did a good thing, she said. I looked out the window. I did the right thing. That's different. A week later, my lawyer called again. The trust ruling came through. You've been awarded the full inheritance, plus interest. It's yours. I stared at the settlement check in my hands. $263,000. Money Debra had tried to keep from me. Money I'd used to build something better. I used part of the inheritance to start a scholarship fund. The Second Chance Foundation, I called it. It was for young women who'd been abandoned, kicked out, or left to survive on their own. Girls like I'd been. The first year, we awarded 5 scholarships. By the third year, we were funding 15. I got letters from recipients, telling me how the money had changed their lives. One girl wrote, "You saved me when no one else would." I cried when I read it. Because I knew exactly how she felt. Meanwhile, Debra recovered from the transplant. She was alive, but her life was unrecognizable. Her social standing was gone. Her marriage was over. Her stepdaughter wanted nothing to do with her. The only person who visited her was a nurse from hospice care who checked on her twice a week. I didn't visit. I didn't call. I'd said everything I needed to say. One afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Debra. "Thank you," it read. That was all. No apology. No explanation. Just 2 words. I didn't respond. I deleted the message and moved on with my life. At work, I was promoted to vice president of operations. My office overlooked the city, the same city where I'd once slept in my car behind a gas station. The same city where I'd scrubbed floors at a diner and wondered if I'd ever be more than invisible. Now, I led a team of 50 people. I made decisions that impacted thousands. And I'd built it all from nothing. One day, I was at a networking brunch when someone asked about my family. "Do you have siblings?" she asked casually. I smiled. "I built my own family," I said. "The people who showed up when it mattered. That's who I call home." She nodded, understanding without needing details. Later, I visited Bev. She was retired now, living in a small house by the lake. We sat on her porch with lemonade, watching the sunset. "You did good, kid," she said. I rested my head on her shoulder. "I learned from the best." She patted my hand. "Your mom ever reach out again?" I shook my head. "No. And that's okay. I don't need her anymore." Bev smiled. "You never did." Years passed. I was 35 now. The scholarship fund had grown. We'd helped over 100 girls rebuild their lives. I got invited to speak at conferences, share my story, inspire others. I wasn't defined by what Debra had done to me anymore. I was defined by what I'd built despite her. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. The return address was a nursing home across town. Inside was a single page, handwritten in shaky letters. "Monica, I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. I know I can never undo what I did. But I need you to know, I was wrong. You were never a mistake. I was. I hope one day you can find peace. Debra." I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer. I didn't write back. I didn't need to. Because my peace wasn't tied to her anymore. I'd found it years ago, in a diner, in a storage room, in the kindness of a stranger who'd seen me when no one else would. I'd found it in my own strength. And that was something she could never take away. Today, I stand in front of a room full of young women, scholarship recipients, volunteers, supporters. We're celebrating the 5th annual Second Chance Gala, and my heart is full. I look out at their faces, so many of them echoing the girl I used to be, scared, discarded, but refusing to disappear. You are not defined by the people who gave up on you, I tell them. You are defined by the strength you found when you had nothing left. You are defined by the choice to keep going, even when the world said you didn't matter. The applause fills the room, and I feel tears prick my eyes. After the event, I drive home to my small house with the front porch and the garden I planted myself. I pour a glass of wine and sit on the steps, looking up at the stars. Somewhere in this city, Debra is alive because of me. But I didn't save her for her sake. I saved her so I could prove to myself that I was nothing like her. She said I wasn't her daughter. And she was right. Because daughters are made through love, not biology. And I became someone better than she ever could be. I built my own family, my own legacy, my own life. And in the end, that's the greatest victory of all.